But no, remember, these are the movies that are better than the new movies. Remember, guys, these movies understand Star Wars. The Last Jedi isn't a real Star Wars movie, but this one is. This one gets to be a real Star Wars movie. And guess what, guys? We still have one more to go.
What orders from Mordor, my lord? What does the Eye command?
We have work to do.
I couldn't believe some of the things they wrote about the prequels, you know? I mean, but really, beyond, I didn't like it. You ruined my childhood, and I'm still angry about the way they treated Jake Lloyd. He was only 10 years old, that boy, and he did exactly what George wanted him to do. Believe me, I understand clunky dialogue. So I almost got hornswoggled in that documentary where they weren't calling it The People versus George Lucas at the time, but I could tell from the questions they were asking me, it was an open invitation to trash George.
George Lucas raped our childhood. 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 George Lucas raped our childhood.
And I have issues with George, but I love that man.
You go to make a movie and all you do is get criticized, and people try to make decisions about what you're going to do before you do it. You know, it's not much fun, and you can't experiment. You can't do anything. You have to do it a certain way. I don't like that. I never did. I started out in experimental films, and I want to go back to experimental films. But of course, nobody wants to see experimental films.
The main thing is to protect these characters. Make sure that they still continue to live in the way that you created them.
I'm curious that the Force doesn't get muddled into a bunch of garbly-gook.
Can I just say, though, a lot of times I would say to Ryan, we got to think about the fans. And he said, no, we got to think about the story, and we got to think about our movie. Which
Welcome back to Revenge of the Prequels, everyone. This is part 4 of my response to Cosmonaut Variety Hour, but before we begin, you must know that Revenge of the Prequels is an ongoing response series regarding all content creators who have exhibited terrible arguments towards the Star Wars prequels and have been doing so for years. There's currently 12 other videos that respond to several content creators, and Cosmonaut is simply the most recent name on the list. So don't think this is a personal attack on him. I have some not very nice things to say, but don't confuse my insults with my arguments. Look, I've made these disclaimers in several other videos, so if you're here, chances are you already know what this series is about, but if this is your first episode, you should go back to the beginning of the series once this video has finished. Watching from episode 1 onward will help you understand my reasoning behind the making of the series, my true intentions, and how my argumentation has progressed with time as more and more facts have come to light through my own research and the assistance of my community. So there's a lot to be gained by watching from start to finish, and I can almost guarantee you that you'll find out something new regarding the prequels in these videos that the mainstream circle jerk have neglected to inform you on, or possibly things you've always known about the prequels that no one has yet put into words, because of their ignorance or some sort of agenda they've taken against these movies. Now lastly, due to recent events, I can't predict what's going to happen with the future episodes in this series, so if you'd like to support my work, feel free to signal boost them however way you see fit. There's a link to Patreon in the description, and there's also the join button for channel memberships. Or as an extra middle finger to the prequel hate circle jerk on the internet, you can get your official Revenge of the Prequels merchandise now from the newly designed online merchandise store for the channel, if you'd like to stick it to them in style. Right, so with all that out of the way, let's progress with part 4.
So Obi-Wan manages to track down the assassin, and he finds him on a planet called Kamino, a planet where they are growing clone soldiers. And what is truly strange to me is that wise Jedi Master Obi-Wan goes to this planet where he literally sees the clones being grown and trained, And he learns that Jango Fett is the man that the clones are based on. Jango Fett lives in this facility. He also learns that Count Dooku hired Jango Fett.
No, he has no idea that Count Dooku hired Jango Fett for the clone army. Sure, we later find out that Count Dooku hired Jango to assassinate Padme on the Viceroy's behalf, but here's what Jango actually says.
I was recruited by a man called Tyrannus on one of the moons of Bogdan. Curious.
Tyrannus is Dooku's Sith name, which the Jedi are not aware of. Only the audience are made aware of this after the reveal at the end of the movie when Dooku converses with Sidious.
The Force is with us, Master Sidious.
Welcome home, Lord Tyrannus. You have done well.
Meaning Dooku was indeed behind the Clone Wars as well as the assassination attempt on Padme, and he is shown to be Sidious's puppet, and that the two have been working together this whole time. The audience has been made aware of this revelation, but the characters have not. They know the alias of Tyrannus, but not who it belongs to. As for Jango taking the job, he's a bounty hunter. He kills or captures people for a living. He is a gun for hire. So I'm pretty sure he's not against hiring out his DNA for a large payout. He has no agenda with the clones other than getting paid.
And he later finds out that Count Dooku and Jango Fett are evil.
Now, to follow up what I just said, Jango Fett, again, is a bounty hunter. He's not strictly speaking evil. He commits evil deeds, but there's no personal motivation to commit these actions aside from making a living. He's simply a professional. Hell, the protagonists could even hire him if they wish. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not even convinced that Count Dooku is evil. And admittedly, this is a more subjective viewpoint, but let me explain. Count Dooku embraces the power of the dark side, but unlike Vader, and from what we can see from these movies, he's not a mass-murdering monster. As Ki-Adi-Mundi said previously,
he is a political idealist, not a murderer.
And we learn that he is the leader of the Separatist movement. Every time we see him, he's being civil. He offers Obi-Wan mercy at one point and shares his motivations with him.
Don't be so sure, my young Jedi. You forget that he was once my apprentice, just as you were once his. He knew all about the corruption in the Senate, but he would never have gone along with it if he had learned the truth as I have. You must join me, Obi-Wan. And together, we will destroy the Sith.
It's not a yearning for power, more so than simply a lack of faith in the current state of government. He even shows that killing Sidious has been on his mind, which leads me to believe either he knew Sidious's true intentions for power and wanted to put a stop to it, or that he wasn't aware of Sidious's true intentions for an empire and was serving the Separatist cause for his own ideals, believing Sidious wanted the same. I'm leaning more towards the former if he was contemplating killing Sidious. Vader wanted Luke to join him so that they could rule the galaxy together as father and son. Vader always wanted power, at first for his loved ones, and then for himself. Dooku, on the other hand, as far as I can tell, isn't power hungry in that way. He has turned away from the Jedi and the Republic, adopting some dark side practices, but nothing that suggests wanting absolute power. At least in terms of authority. And again, his actions tell a different story to Vader's actions and his motivations. And truthfully, these probably had some strategic motive, but again, he does offer Obi-Wan mercy. He offers to spare Windu and some of the Jedi.
Surrender, and your lives will be spared.
We will not be hostages to be bartered, Dooku.
He offers to spare Obi-Wan again.
As you see, my Jedi powers are far beyond yours. Now, back down.
And after the duel with Anakin and Obi-Wan, he has this look of what appears to be regret on his face, almost like he didn't want to do what he did, but he had to. He even shuts off his lightsaber despite Anakin and Obi-Wan being completely helpless until Yoda arrives. In Revenge of the Sith, he says he's been looking forward to their rematch, but the encounter was set up by Palpatine, not by Dooku. Dooku was following the wishes of his master, and perhaps he holds somewhat of a grudge since Attack of the Clones. Perhaps he feels embarrassed that the two of them gave him a decent fight, Anakin most of all, being simply a Padawan. And the assassination attempt on Padme wasn't personal either. She was simply a means to an end on behalf of someone else. The point I'm trying to make is I don't think evil is the right classification for Dooku or Jango Fett for that matter. They are the puppets of the puppet master who is the truly evil one. As for Dooku and the clones being connected, again, Jango Fett was hired by Tyrannus for the job of lending his DNA for the cloning, and Obi-Wan doesn't know who that is. However, Whoever it was that hired Jango didn't place the original order to create the clones in the first place. As far as Obi-Wan knows, it was Cypher Dyas, a Jedi Master, placed the order, but without the knowledge of the Jedi Council.
Please tell your master, Cypher Dyas, that his order will be met on time.
Did the Council ever authorize the creation of a clone army?
No. Whoever placed that order did not have the authorization of the Jedi Council.
Bring him here. Question him. We will.
Yes, Master.
And certainly orchestrated by Palpatine, shortly after becoming Chancellor, according to the dates mentioned in the movie.
Master Cypher Dyas was killed almost 10 years ago.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. But I'm sure he would have been proud of the army we've built for him.
You're sweating. Relax. Take a deep breath.
I haven't seen her in 10 years, Master.
Cypher Dyas is dead now, so they cannot confirm what exactly happened, which is why the Jedi Council needs to question Jango Fett. Which is why the true intent behind the clones as well as Order 66 remains unknown to them until it's too late. So there is very little to tie Dooku to the clones, and I do imagine the clones were treated with a level of scrutiny at the beginning of the war, but after war had broken out, I can't say I don't blame the Jedi for not asking too many questions. The whole point of the war was to act as a distraction, and a means for Palpatine to gain more power. Hell, Obi-Wan even says this.
I have to admit that without the clones it would not have been a victory.
Despite the curious and convenient circumstances behind the clones, the Jedi weren't exactly in a position to bargain.
And yet never at any point does he figure out that Dooku and the clones are connected in any way. Obi-Wan Kenobi is given all of the information to figure out that the clones were paid for by the bad guys.
No, as far as Obi-Wan is aware, and according to the cloners themselves, the order was placed for the Republic by a Jedi Master. Jango Fett tells him he was hired for the job by another mysterious party, which Obi-Wan does not know.
And yet it doesn't matter, because I guess he just forgot.
Well, the Clone Wars started pretty much the very next day. Not to mention, after heading to Geonosis, Obi-Wan uncovers a massive droid army as well, which he knows straight up have been bought and paid for by the Separatists that want to oppose the Republic. As far as Obi-Wan is concerned, the Republic paid for the clones.
If Obi-Wan just remembered that Dooku and the clones are connected, he probably could have stopped the whole war. He could have saved the galaxy. It's such a small thing that would have changed the entire course of the Star Wars saga.
Well, whatever proof he might have had of that died with Jango Fett, so...
And it's just based around Obi-Wan forgetting a crucial piece of information.
Which he never had, you jackass. Only the audience is aware, not the characters.
So anyway, that's the A plot, and it's dumb as fuck.
Says the man who obviously wasn't paying attention.
But meanwhile, we have the B plot, and it's just as bad, because George Lucas does not understand romance.
And you obviously don't understand these characters.
In this movie, we get to watch Padme and Anakin flirt and go on dates, and this wouldn't be too bad if it wasn't so painfully written. Half of the shit they say to each other is pretty cringe, bro.
Here everything is soft and smooth.
Oh. Anakin has no idea how to flirt. He is completely romantically illiterate. However, judging by what Padme is wearing... and the fact that Padme doesn't protest the closer Anakin gets, as well as her lingering body language as she looks at him, suggests that she's into it, and she's practically begging him to kiss her. What triggers this interaction is each of them talking about their childhoods. Padme tells Anakin what life was like growing up in wealth on this paradise planet, and Anakin reminds her with his disdain for sand that he comes from a very bleak background. Anakin's innocence, as well as Padme's sympathy for his past, not to mention Hayden Christensen being a sexy beast with force powers, is the source for the attraction. I'm not saying all the dialogue is perfect, but from a character standpoint they are very compatible. It's their respective occupations that keep them from acting on their feelings. And as a matter of fact, they understand each other better than anyone. Padme was the only one besides Qui-Gon who saw where Anakin came from and understood his upbringing. Whilst Anakin was the only person Padme was able to be herself with when she had the burden of being Queen of Naboo that she was hiding in secret, this character dynamic feeds into Attack of the Clones quite well and matures itself. manifesting in romance.
Now, I wouldn't say that these two characters don't have any chemistry, because it's not really like that at all. I think that they could have made something work if they were better directed and if they had a better script. I mean, look at the scene where Anakin talks about how he just murdered a village full of people. This is how you can tell it's the director's fault, not the actors.
I killed them. I killed them all.
Natalie, can we get a reaction to this, please?
They're dead.
Any reaction. George, that's your job. Tell her what to do. Help her help you, George.
Well, you obviously didn't watch the scene. Anakin was clearly in a lot of pain, and he's conflicted with losing his mother. When he confesses slaughtering the Tusken Raiders, he's angry, but he's also confused. He doesn't quite understand what happened, and he's also somewhat ashamed in retrospect. Padme doesn't react because she's speechless at this revelation. She's not disgusted because she understands why Anakin did this. This doesn't mean she agrees with it, but again, she understands and sympathizes with why he did it. And so she tries to bargain with herself and for Anakin to rationalize it for herself, because again, Padme is in love with him. This becomes more and more apparent as the film progresses.
They're like animals, and I slaughtered them like animals. I hate them.
To be angry is to be human.
I'm a Jedi. I know I'm better than this.
So her motivations aren't just sympathetic, but selfish as well. Matter of fact, Anakin has been the only thing that makes Padme compromise her ideology. Despite Anakin's own master telling her his far worse deeds in Revenge of the Sith, she straight up refuses to believe it, and even bargains with herself until Anakin makes it clear to her that he's too far gone.
Come away with me. Help me raise our child. Leave everything else behind while we still can.
And together you and I can rule the galaxy. Make things the way we want them to be.
I don't believe what I'm hearing. Obi-Wan was right. You've changed.
So yes, Padme didn't freak out like a lot of people think she should have, because she understood Anakin's pain and she loves him. She's shocked, but she wants to help him, not run away or make his pain worse.
So these two really dumb plots converge on Geonosis, where we can have our dumbass final battle. And the end of this movie has now devolved into a dumb CGI action climax, and I personally cannot stand it.
Also, if you knew what went into making this scene, you wouldn't be mocking, you'd be applauding. So I'll give it to you quick. Attack of the Clones was the first film in Western culture to be shot entirely on digital. The prequels pioneered the damn grandfather technology that the MCU is ejaculating all over the screens, as well as the rest of the film industry, so get down on your fucking knees. Secondly, this scene was shot in 4 hours. Yep. This entire action sequence in the droid factory was improv, acted by Hayden and Natalie in 4 hours under George Lucas's direction. And this is what they and the production team managed to achieve. So that shows what you and the rest of the puppet-loving circle jerk know about the prequels. And thirdly, wait a minute. No, actually, I'm pretty sure I've said all I needed to say.
Action is kind of boring if it just shows up for no reason.
Wait, I thought you said the politics were boring. Now you're saying the action is boring? Also, what do you mean shows up for no reason? I don't see how the action is boring if the characters' lives are in peril and if we care about the characters. Which, make no mistake, we do. Then the action excels.
So then, to end it all, we have a lightsaber fight. And it's probably the worst one in the entire series.
No, that is still A New Hope and Return of the Jedi. Look, I like them all, don't get me wrong, but A New Hope's fight is incredibly dated, and Return of the Jedi, while being emotionally satisfying, looked kind of retarded at times. In Attack of the Clones, it's simply filmed a little differently. And the Yoda fight has mitigating circumstances for how it looks, given that the stuntman had no idea what the hell he was fighting. Given how the Yoda fight turned out in the final product, you best take off your hat and respect, mate.
I don't even need to explain why. I'm just going to show you guys a clip of the fight, and I want you to know that I did not alter it in any way. This is the most boring choreography I've ever seen.
So 8 seconds of a stylistic choice renders the whole fight as terrible. You idiots really do love to try and vilify these movies by grasping at whatever straws you can. Isn't that right? Then again, I guess snippets of footage is all you can muster in an attempt to make these movies look bad.
The only time it's visually impressive is when Yoda enters the battle, and while it is impressive that the Dooku stunt double is fighting with literally nothing and somehow making it look convincing, It doesn't change that this is by far what I consider to be the biggest problem with these movies. This problem is at the core of what I hate about the prequels. And that problem is Yoda. It absolutely blows my mind that people don't have a bigger problem with Yoda in this trilogy. Because if you ask me, this is blatant character assassination.
Okay.
Seeing Yoda with a lightsaber fills me with so much dread, and honestly, I can't explain it. Remember when I praised the scene from Empire where he has this beautiful speech about the Force?
You're serious, aren't you? You're actually clinging to that pathetic straw that the OT fanatics incestuously propagate like a motherfucker. I honestly had a higher regard for you than that, but holy shit, just finish plummeting down the rabbit hole, please.
Well, all of that understanding and wisdom is gone in these movies. Yoda never makes a single good decision in these movies, and it's because he always says, "Oh, the dark side is clouding my judgment." Come the fuck on, man. I need real plot elements because this shit isn't working. I should never see Yoda directing troops of soldiers.
I'll give you that. The dark side clouding the Jedi's view is a contrivance. A little too convenient to prevent the Jedi from recognizing Palpatine's presence as a Sith. But that's another discussion. In regards to Yoda having wisdom in Empire Strikes Back, let me ask, have you ever heard the saying, with age comes wisdom? And you do realize that Attack of the Clones is a prequel, right? And that this is a younger Master Yoda who is at the height of authority during the Jedi's height of power? He is more inclined to take part in actual battles, dipshit. Also, you're wrong. Yoda makes plenty of good decisions. Matter of fact, he's the one who didn't want Anakin trained. Obi-Wan opts to train Anakin without the Council's assistance, which makes Yoda relent, since Obi-Wan was taking after his rebellious master Qui-Gon. Anakin had a higher chance of becoming a Jedi with the Council's help than without it. Granted, that's not how it turns out in the end, but is Yoda really meant to trust the training of an absurdly powerful, Force-sensitive being like Anakin to an inexperienced, newly crowned Jedi Knight like Obi-Wan Kenobi? No, of course not. Yoda also decides to visit the Kaminoans and put the clones into action, which saved the surviving Jedi and Senator Amidala in the Geonosian Stadium. When Dooku attempts to crush Anakin and Obi-Wan in order to escape, Yoda makes the decision to save their lives, rather than pursue Dooku, which enabled Dooku to escape and continue rallying systems to the war. So you can argue that this was a bad decision, but correct me if I'm wrong, this is the decision that a Jedi would make, correct? To protect people? To save lives? Granted, Yoda is blinded for much of the trilogy and fails to act on a number of occasions, but he is still the same character. There is no character assassination here. I didn't grow up with the OT like a lot of people did, or at least I didn't watch them religiously and build a shrine around my Boba Fett pajamas. So I never had this preconceived vision of what Yoda, or Darth Vader for that matter, should be. The argument of Star Wars should be this, Yoda should be that, and Vader should be this is entitlement. People forget that just because you jerk off to Star Wars doesn't mean you own it, doesn't mean it's your story. You are not the artist. You do not get to dictate the characters. You are being told a story. Now, admittedly, this criticism of should be when applied to Disney has a lot more flexibility since they bought the IP, and they are a corporate entity telling stories off someone else's work. But in regards to Lucas, the only time should be can be applied is when there is an inconsistency in his own writing. Let me give you a hyperbolic example. Yoda walks up to Count Dooku. Instead of drawing his lightsaber, Yoda decides to ballet dance. Yoda should not be ballet dancing because A, Jedis don't ballet dance, B, he's 800 plus years old and is extremely mature, and C, Yoda is in a situation of life and death, so ballet dancing would be very stupid, and Yoda is meant to be very wise. However, if you're going to tell me
I should never see Yoda directing troops of soldiers,
then I'm going to tell you to go fuck yourself. Yoda is the lead Jedi. The clones have been placed under the direction of the Jedi, and the clones are fighting lifeless battle droids by the tens of thousands. And these droids are going to be used to incite conflict into the galaxy. Of course Yoda is going to be directing the troops if he is on the scene. Not to mention, in Revenge of the Sith, he volunteers to go to Kashyyyk to help defend the Wookiees, and he is able to do this by directing the clones. Anyway, hopefully that makes my point.
I should never hear Yoda say these words.
Concentrate all your fire on the nearest starship.
Oh hey, there's that should be again. If those Federation starships get away, they will be used to incite more conflict in the Republic. And again, Yoda is the highest Republic authority on the scene.
Seeing Yoda doing ninja flips is just so upsetting for me, and maybe this is why I like that Luke dies without hitting anybody with a lightsaber.
You mean when he cowers for over 2 hours, does fuck all in that entire movie, and has his character annihilated when Rian Johnson wrote him to be an attempted child murderer? And then he dies from astro projection. So that doesn't upset you. But Yoda. Jedi Master Yoda using a Jedi's signature weapon and using the Force to do ninja flips and combat a Sith Master who challenged him in the first place, this you do have a problem with.
Are you fucking retarded?
I have my problems with The Last Jedi, but this is how a Jedi should operate in my mind.
Well, that's the crux of the issue, isn't it? This is how the Jedi should operate in my mind. It's not up to you how a Jedi should operate, and newsflash, it's not up to Rian Johnson either, who clearly knows fuck all about Star Wars, and who Mark Hamill himself fundamentally disagreed with regarding how Luke Skywalker was portrayed in his shitfest of a movie.
Well, see, again, I mean, and I told Brian this, it's no surprise. I said, I just fundamentally disagree with your concept of this character and how you use him.
The customs and mannerisms of who the Jedi are and how they are portrayed is a product of George Lucas. Does that mean you can't make accurate fanfiction portrayals of the Jedi and the Sith? Nope, you absolutely can. It's just that Ryan's quote-unquote vision belongs at the bottom of the barrel.
I love that once Luke arrives on the scene, nobody else dies for the rest of the movie except for him.
Yeah, after having his character butchered and his legacy destroyed, he kills himself by projecting himself. Yay?
A Jedi should work hardest to find a solution without resorting to violence. In Episode 3, when Obi-Wan begs Yoda and says, "Please, Yoda, don't make me kill Anakin," Yoda says, "Sorry, bro. You gotta do what you gotta do."
Yoda doesn't tell him to kill Anakin, at least not explicitly. Anakin just killed children. The Jedi have been purged. Palpatine has proclaimed himself as the Emperor of the Galaxy. Something has to be done. Obi-Wan needs to confront Anakin. Yoda actually doesn't even refer to him as Anakin anymore. He refers to him as Darth Vader because he no longer sees him as the same person.
Twisted by the dark side, young Skywalker has become. The boy you trained, gone he is, consumed by Darth Vader.
Something that Obi-Wan soon finds out for himself during their confrontation. But yeah, bottom line, the Jedi need to take action during these very extreme circumstances. And strictly speaking, I've always found not being able to kill as a flaw in the Jedi as a whole. An example of this would be in the Force Unleashed video game. If someone is evil and is going to commit more evil, and if you do not vanquish them, and it is in your power to vanquish them, shouldn't you kill them? If the Jedi are meant to be the guardians of peace and justice in the galaxy, vanquishing evil is guarding the peace and serving justice. So yes, the Jedi were justified in fighting Anakin and Palpatine to the death. That's honestly one of the biggest criticisms I have of Star Wars as a whole, the Jedi's viewpoint of when it's okay and not okay to kill someone.
In these movies, Yoda's #1 solution is to kill the bad guys.
You're showing the destruction of droids, you dumbass.
He never at any point tries to negotiate. He always goes in, guns blazing.
He's protecting the survivors! The survivors! He's protecting them! What is he meant to do? Just let them die! This whole time you've been saying Jedi need to defend and be wise and not incite conflict. He's protecting them, you moron!
This isn't Yoda. This isn't how Jedi are supposed to work. There's zero nuance and zero subtlety.
What? There's plenty of subtlety. You didn't even understand the finer details of the plot of this movie for 12-year-olds because of so many subtle elements.
These movies just tell you flat out what is going to happen, and then those events happen.
Well, Darth Tyrannus being revealed as Count Dooku was a surprise at the end of the movie, and in regards to the prequels as a whole, there is a problem with the idea of surprising the audience. Prequels in general have the burden of being prequels. The destination is already set. We knew there was going to be the Clone Wars thanks to A New Hope. We knew that Anakin was going to be Darth Vader and Yoda was going to end up on Dagobah in exile because of The Empire Strikes Back. And we knew Palpatine was going to be the Emperor because of Return of the Jedi. Prequels in general are typically unwise to do because of this burden they all carry with them. This doesn't apply to only Star Wars, but to all film in general. Though I'd imagine plenty of people were surprised at the prequels had they watched the Star Wars movies in chronological order.
There's nothing to surprise you, and there's nothing to enjoy. Along the way, you're gonna see classic characters acting stupid, acting out of character, but no, remember, these are the movies that are better than the new movies. Remember, guys, these movies understand Star Wars. The Last Jedi isn't a real Star Wars movie. But this one is. This one gets to be a real Star Wars movie. And guess what, guys? We still have one more to...
Shut the fuck up!
Yeah, so the prequels made by the original creator don't feel like Star Wars movies, but the Disney garbage that panders to the lowest common denominator does feel like Star Wars. Fan fictions made by a corporate entity with no clear roadmap, planning, or respect for the IP feels more like Star Wars than the original creator's work. The nostalgia-milking cash cows that blatantly plagiarize the original's work should be higher regarded than the original stories made by the original creator, who had a vision of his own product and art from start to finish. Your logic is beyond fucked. And that was part 4 of Revenge of the Prequels, Dissecting a Dumbass. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget there's 12 other episodes of this series, so if you're gonna watch them, the best way to do it is to start from episode 1 and work your way down the list. Before I go, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to all of my patrons. You guys are amazing and I appreciate your support very, very much. If you'd like to support the channel with a monthly donation, even if it's just $1 per month, the link to Patreon is in the description below. I'd also like to thank my YouTube members as well. Thank you to the Star Killers, the Captain Prices, and the Master Chiefs for all your support. I very much appreciate it. And don't forget to check out the channel merchandise store. You can get your official Revenge of the Prequels merchandise. Wear your colors proud while supporting me at the same time. I hope you check it out. Now, if you'd like to contact me, you can reach out to me on Twitter, or preferably you can contact me on the channel's Discord server. What Discord basically is an online community where other followers of this channel congregate to talk about a range of different topics, ranging from Star Wars to video games, anime, and so on. I hope to see you on there. Chances are you'll make some friends along the way. Now, with all that said, here's one more thank you for staying to the end of the video. You are a legend, and I'll see you next time.
The main thing is to protect these characters. Make sure that they still continue to live in the way that you created them.
I sold them to the white slavers.
Star Wars The Phantom Menace was the most disappointing thing since...
Share your energy with me! The spirit box meeting! This is great.